Okay, so now it's time to look at the structure of the heart. And as you're looking at it, this diagram looks pretty scary, but I promise it's not as difficult as it seems. The first thing that we need to do is identify just some of the structures and what they do, and then the rest of it will become a whole lot clearer. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the overall structure of the heart in the middle, and I'm going to divide it into the right-hand side and the left-hand side. Now, one thing that you need to know about the heart is that when you're looking at it, we don't look at the right-hand side as being this side and the left-hand side as being this side. We imagine that it's inside your chest. So if I was looking at you and this was your heart, this would be your right-hand side, and this would be your left-hand side if you were holding it up to yourself. So it's kind of on the opposite side to what you would imagine. So first we're going to colour in the right-hand side, which is on the left, and the right-hand side deals with the deoxygenated blood. So I'm just going to colour that blue, and this is just the muscular wall that I'm colouring in the hope that it doesn't become too confusing. So this side of the heart is going to deal with all of the deoxygenated blood. There's no oxygen in it, so that means it's come from the body, which used up all of the oxygen, and now it's going to go travel to the lungs to pick up more oxygen that can then be transported around the body. So this is the deoxygenated side. And then the other side of the heart, which is the left-hand side, which is on the right, hopefully, that deals with the oxygenated blood. So now I'm going to colour the left-hand side red. This is the side that has oxygen in it. So it's come from the lungs where it's been oxygenated. It's picked up all of its oxygen, and then it's come back to the heart ready to be pushed out around the rest of the body. The bottom of my screen doesn't work, so the colour is just going to have to stop here. Oopsie. Okay, so we've got the left-hand side that is oxygenated and the right-hand side that is deoxygenated. Now that that's done, it's a lot easier to identify the different parts of this diagram. So what we'll do is I'll keep my writing the same colour so that it makes things a bit easier for you. So we're going to deal with blood flow. The first thing that you should know is that the blood flows in from the edges of the heart, if you like, and it flows out through the middle. So in this case, we've got deoxygenated blood coming in the far right-hand side and going out of the middle. And it comes in through a vein. As I mentioned in my previous video, veins bring blood in. You can remember because they in. And this vein is called the vena meaning vein, cava means body. So the vena cava is bringing blood into the heart from the body. And when it comes into the heart, the first chamber that it enters here is called the right atrium. It's called right because it's on the right-hand side. Pen's not working. So that's the right atrium. And that kind of just accepts the blood as it comes in through the vena cava. Then that blood travels through a valve. So this is a valve between the atrium and the ventricle. It's an atrioventricular valve. The valve's job is to stop the blood from flowing backwards. So the blood will flow through this valve, and then it will push back on the valve, and that will cause the valve to close, and that will stop the blood from going backwards into the atrium again. So once it's passed through that valve, it ends up down here, which is still the right, but this chamber is called a ventricle. And then when the ventricle contracts, it will push blood out of the heart, and this one splits off. But this is the pulmonary artery. It's called pulmonary because pulmonary means lungs, and artery because it takes blood out of the heart. Artery takes blood away from the heart. Okay, so that's the whole right-hand side of the heart. The blood has now gone off. It's gone to be oxygenated at the lungs, and then it's going to come back. So when it comes back, it's now when it comes back, it's going to be oxygenated. So this time it's going to come in here, and then it's going to be pushed out here. I hope you can see that. So it comes in sort of from the outer edges and it gets pumped out of the middle. You can see that it kind of crosses over in the middle, which can be a bit tricky when we do the dissection. You'll be able to see that in more detail. So first of all, the blood is coming in through a vein, and it's coming from the lungs. So that means that it is coming through the pulmonary, because pulmonary means lungs, and vein because it's going in. Arteries and veins. So it comes in, and then because we're on the left-hand side now, and it goes into the first chamber. And the first chamber is called the left atrium. So it always goes into an atrium first. And this one's on the left-hand side, which you can see on the right. And then once it's gone through the left atrium, it gets pushed out of the left atrium through this valve. So again, there's a valve which prevents backward flow. So it means that, so this is the left valve. And again, this is an atrioventricular valve. It's a valve between the atrium and the ventricle. And so then it finally goes into the left ventricle. And when the left ventricle contracts, the blood will flow out, and it's going to the body this time. It's filled with lovely oxygen, so it's going to go to the body tissues through this artery, because it's taking the blood out of the heart. So this artery is called the aorta. And that is the main artery that takes blood away from your heart. Now, the aorta actually splits off into several other vessels that go to different places. So part of the aorta splits off to form your coronary arteries, and they are the arteries that supply your heart muscle, the outside of the muscle here, so that it can contract. So coronary arteries supply oxygen to your heart muscle, to the outside. Part of it goes off and goes to your kidney, which is called your renal artery. And part of it goes to the rest of your body. There's a bit that goes to your liver as well. But the main ones that you need to know about are the aorta branches off into your coronary artery and your renal artery. And that is all of the parts of the heart. Now you may choose, and I recommend that you do, you may choose to watch this video again before you go on to label your diagram.